everyone. Welcome to the Handicap Rugby Chat that matters. Thursday night, as always, at 9 o'clock. I must say, I was a bit of a doubtful start of this week. Went to a school play earlier, but fortunately it finished about 8 o'clock South African time, and I was able to get home and host the show. And one of the guests on the show was going to host it if I wasn't going to be here, and it's at the Crow Tips. Chris, good to see you there, man. Was that a beer I saw next to you there earlier?
It's a beer, yeah. Good old Polish Tyskie. Can't go wrong, yeah. Strong as nails, but great. Good. Thanks, Brent. Yeah, good to be back. It's been, to be honest, your punting side has been tough the last 2 weeks after a really nice start to May. I was thinking of a break, but I thought, let's just go for it. I like a lot of some of the games, so I love being on the show with you guys, and obviously with great to be on with Alex. I think it's the first time, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the boys on the live chat. Mark Dunphy up nice and early. He's in Asia at the moment, and Joe Lyons and Xavier Murray also joining us as well. Xavier saying don't bet on the Sharks. I thought it may be surprised no one's commented about my Blue Bulls bet from last week. Yet that was an absolute disaster, the handicap moving. But let's welcome Alex. Alex, first of all, thanks very much. You were a late addition to the show. I know you had some work plans and that freed you up, and I appreciate you stepping in, man.
No worries. Yeah, thanks for having me. Last minute call up. I saw the SOS go out. I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. So I had some work plans that were cancelled, so I thought I'd step in. So I haven't had as much time to prep as I normally would do. So if I miss any big names on the team sheets, please forgive me. But I'll do my best to go along the season with Chris.
Excellent. Well, more guys joining the live chat, including the conductor. And conductor, you can confirm, but you're probably sitting in the dark there unless load shedding was suspended. So conductor, unfortunately, sitting watching the show there on his phone. So yeah, good to have you boys down. We're going to get straight into it because, boy, we've got a lot of rugby to talk about. We're going to start off with Super Rugby Pacific. And let me just get to the games. I haven't put the betting in this week because I was a little bit pushed for time, but we'll have a look at them. And it's Crusaders against the Fijian Drua first. And let's go to, I'm just going to look at player bets for the handicap here. We've got a handicap, Alex, of minus 29.5 Crusaders and total points line of 61.5.
Yeah, first game up tomorrow morning. So a lot of changes in both teams. Drua making quite a few changes. It's probably closer to a team that played the Canes and got thumped a couple of weeks ago. And the Crusaders have made changes. No Richie Moana this week, and a number of other changes. So you've got Fergus Burt playing at 10, Goodhue and Enner on the centre, so no Havili, and Chafe Hockey at fullback, so no Will Jordan, one of my favourite players in the game at the moment. So yeah, big changes for both sides. I think they've probably recognised that maybe the Drua could have a better chance of winning another game, and the Crusaders can probably give the B team A/B team a run out and still hopefully get the bonus point victory, which is what they're after at the moment. So it's going to be a tough one. Actually, I don't think I know the weather conditions. I think in terms of the cap,
it's raining all day, Alex. It's raining all day. Okay. Maybe not at game time, but it'll be wet. It'll be wet and dewy underfoot
so I think game time. Yeah. So I think we know this Crusaders team this season have been pretty up and down and very good recently. Against the Brumbies and better against the Force, but they're obviously a pretty poor side. But they've definitely come in the last 2 weeks, stepped up a lot more. The first kind of half of the season was poor by their standards, as they've admitted that throughout the season. I personally am not going to get involved in minus here. It's too big for me, especially if it maybe rains around. I don't feel like they may well cover, but I just don't want to get involved at a minus 30 cap. Drua, they won't be used to playing with Drua. They play a very unique brand of rugby, and the Crusaders haven't faced that this season yet. And they'll shut the ball around whether it's raining or not. So I think you can get a points line of the Drua around that 15.5. Brent, I don't know if you can see that on your side, but I was looking around about that sort of mark. Depending on the weather, I think I might have a little play at that, but this is a big cap, and there's some other games this weekend that take my fancy rather than A/B teams in probably a foregone conclusion. So I might take a bit of a punt on the Drua overs, but I won't be getting too involved in this game.
Yeah, it is about 15.5. Let's see what Chris fancies on this one.
To be honest, Brent, first up, I actually really liked the minus. I thought in dry conditions, probably Mwanga and Will Jordan are big losses. Even Cody Taylor, I think he's more crucial than we think he is. So those three players are massive, and it's underfoot. If it wasn't that case, I think the Crusaders would have won by 50, no problem. But because of what Alex has just said and what I've just said about the team news and conditions, you do worry. You would think the Crusaders would have enough, but also Eno, the combination of Eno and Gudu, I'm also not sure if I've ever seen them play together. I would prefer a Vili or Leicester in the midfield to maybe get them going a bit better. But I don't know. So I'm still gonna. I'll still tip the minus, to be honest. But it's a low confidence one. I will look tomorrow. I'll wait to see also pictures from the ground. But I still think the Crusaders should cover the cap. So the Drua are just nowhere near the quality of the Crusaders. And this is the business end of the tournament. This is when the Crusaders do their thing. So I think they should cover it. I just wish it was dry because then it would be 50 points plus.
Yeah, this looks to me like it also could be a Crusaders halftime handicap. I've seen them many times in these games. Get the job done early, get the bonus points, and then sort of switch off a little bit. So it might be something to consider. Let's stick with you, Chris, for the next game. Reds v Moana Pasifika. The handicap I've got here is minus 17.5, the Reds. And we've got a points line on this one. It must be, conditions must maybe be a little bit wet because 45.5.
So this was actually going to be my bet of the weekend, to be honest. My best bet, Reds. I had Reds cap them over in the mid-25s. I just think, Reds haven't had a good run of late, but they've got Fraser Mac right back and Wilson, which are huge. And I just think, at home, they need to bounce back, and I think they will. I just think Reds have just got too much grunt and power for the Pasifika side, who just trying to play not for the wooden spoon, but I just think I just believe Reds are going to come and get the job done. So I love the minus, and I don't know what the Reds points are, but I'll be honest, that was my bet of the weekend, but it's not confident now because of the weather, but I still think that drive it. I mean, the Pasifika set pieces are nowhere to be seen. I still think the Reds could maul them over this cap, to be honest. So I'm still going to be looking at a minus. I still like a Reds performance. So I'm going to look again in the morning at what other markets points I could look at or something again. But the weather report is basically protect your life and soul and everything, your dogs and cats, and go 10 feet underground because they're not looking good, the weather reports.
We'll go to Alex now on that one. Just to mention the points line there for the Reds is, I think it was 30 or 31.5 and 13.5 for Moana Pasifika. What are your thoughts there, Alex?
Yeah, I completely agree with Chris here. This is a Reds playing with. It's just whether you go on the overs or the minus, in my opinion. I'm not too. I mean, I haven't seen it on my way they're at. It doesn't look as bad as Chris said. So we'll have to kind of wait and see in the morning and see if it's maybe not too big looking rain. I'm also not too worried if it is wet. The Reds are in Brisbane. Obviously, the conditions are quite often wet, hot, sticky. And the Reds know how to play in that. They play around Tate quite tight sometimes when the conditions are quite wet, and runners off with McWright and Wilson running off Tate. James O'Connor, hopefully one game after coming back, hopefully is a bit more running in the legs and feeling a little fresher. Tough week against the Blues last week, so they'll be targeting this game. We need a big win. And it's just whether you go on the overs or the minus. And at the moment, if it's not too wet, I'd rather take the overs. 31, I think around 31, 32. But if not, if it is a bit wet, I think I'll take the minus. But it is the Reds play for me. It's just a question of overs or minus. But I think it's probably most likely going to be Reds overs.
Okay, so we'll stick with you, Alex, for the next game. The Chiefs up against the Western Force. The handicap I got you as Chiefs minus 23.5. I don't have a points line as yet.
Yeah, I still haven't really recovered from last week, to be honest, Brent. I was large on the Chiefs. And I saw that game, but there's the 3 tries the Chiefs coughed up were, quite frankly, pathetic. 2 bad passes from Josh Ioane. First game back. First one was a terrible interception. He had 2 runners off him and he picked the Rebels player who ran straight through. Second one was a pass out the back, went to no one. And it was an absolute gift for Callaway, and the last one was up and under. No one was 20 feet near it, and Hodge strolled through to score. So I was absolutely fuming. This was the Chiefs who I haven't been able to catch this season. I really liked from the start of the season. They've been really poor since. I've really not been too pleased with them. So I can't take a Chiefs minus here in Hamilton just because I've been burnt so badly. They should cover this. The Force are a really poor side and really haven't done too much. They've got a couple of changes. Pasifika is playing at 12 for the first time this season. Jake McIntyre is playing 10, so no Kunzel. So that's an interesting move. So two playmakers before. Obviously, they're going to try and play. So I'm actually leaning more reluctantly towards a Force overs because they have a couple of playmakers. Again, haven't seen the weather, but with the 24 handicap, I don't know what the points line is going to be, but you're going to get a reasonable line for Force. So probably around the 15, 16 mark. Maybe they want to think there's more than that, maybe will, but if it's around the kind of 15, 16 mark, this two side is showing they cough up points, and yes, the Force do hold the ball and take possession, take quite long to build phrases, but they can score. They showed that against the Highlanders, scored a couple of tries, and against the Blues as well. So I'm happy to take a low points line that's gifted for Force. I don't trust the plus or the minus here. It's a small overs play for me on Force if it's not too big.
Right, we'll get Chris's opinion on this one. I must say, the Western Force team I'm looking to oppose, and I see the conductor is going quite strongly on Chiefs on the minus. He's expecting them to put them away in this afternoon kickoff. Chris, yourself on this one?
I'm unfortunately I will just saw my rant on the Force. I will not go near the Force again. I don't rate them at all, the rugby team. I think the Chiefs are going to be ruthless tomorrow, and they're going to win by 30 plus easily. I don't see the Force being in this game. Chiefs are coming for the business. Force are there for the taking. Going to be a big win. I think they'll cover the cap.
Right, let's stay with you then for the next game. Hurricanes up against the Rebels. Here we got the Hurricanes minus 18.5 against the Rebels. So a quick look, Chris, before I bring you in there to see what I capped this game at. I actually capped at 22.5 Hurricanes, and I must say this, I think, was one of my early fancies in the week. I do like the Canes on the minus here. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I also like the Canes on the minus, but I'm also liking the points as well. I think it's going to be an open game. I think the Rebels will also get some points, but I think it's a definitely over 50-point game. I would like to see what the point line will be. You can even if Canes points, if you can get close to early 30s, that'll be great. But I'm not sure what will probably be closer to 40 most likely. But I do think Canes cover. I think these are Australian teams in New Zealand at this time of the year. Unfortunately, I'm not hopeful for them. I think they're about to see their asses handed to them, to be honest.
Right, let's see if Alex agrees with us on this one. Alex, Hurricanes minus? Yeah,
I agree. I think I expected this to be in the 20s as well, Brent. I agree with that. And I spotted that Glenn Tamu is back playing 12 this week, so that's an interesting one for the Rebels. I don't actually mind the Rebels here. I think it's better than what's been recently, but this team should put them away. The roulette wheel of picking the Hurricanes fullback continues. This week it's Ruben with Geordie Barrett staying at 12. But yeah, it's comical. And how they picked up 15 to just it's a roulette wheel.
There's no Artie Surveyor this week, which is a loss, but I just think Canes are just too good for Rebels. Rebels will play. They'll play well. They got a decent team. Canes always give you tries, so that's why I like the points more probably than the cap. But
I think it's going to be 53, 55, somewhere around there. And I think it's going to take a little bit over as long as the conditions are right. I agree.
Conduct also green on the Hurricanes, a minus there in the live chat. Let's stick with you, Alex, for the next game. Brumbies up against the Blues, and here I've got the Brumbies plus 6.5 at home to the Blues.
Yeah, this is a huge game. It's probably a game of the round, in my opinion. The Brumbies have been playing well. Obviously, Crusaders beat them last week, I think. Last week. But they rested a few players. They had Valentini. They rested or maybe Lelacia was injured. But this week, Noah Lelacia's back. They are a little bit short in the back row. No Valentino Brown, so they've got Hooper and Reimer. I'm not really sure I'm too familiar with playing, and then otherwise it's a strong Brumbies team. The Blues are without Kira and Rico, and no Tom Robertson. I think pulled out of the squad as well, injured. But it's still a strong Blues team without the Ioane brothers. This one's it's going to be. I think this is going to be a tough one. This is going to go either way. I think this is margin. I think the cap probably is about right. Anything, I think it probably could be a little bit shorter. Brumbies at home have been good. I think they'll be really up for this after the Crusaders last week. I think this is going to be tighter than the Crusaders game. I like Blues 1-12 here. I don't always go for this market, but I think the Brumbies will be up for this. I think it'll be tight, but I think the Blues will edge it. So I'm happy to take a little extra value. I think you can get around 2.5 decimal price. So I'm going to have a little punt on the Blues 1-12 here.
Yeah, I quite like that pick in this game. I do think it's going to be a close one. Chris, anything on the handicap here? I've handicapped this game 8.5. So to me, it looks very well handicapped.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is one of my better bets. I do like the plus here a lot, and a lot of what Alex has just said. I just also think that I know it's dangerous, but it's the Brumbies. Lelacia back is massive, and the changes the Blues have made for me are big. I mean, the Ione brothers have been massive recently, and for me, the Blues, yes, they're great, and they've blown away people there at Eden Park. But I'm going to be honest, it's against the Rebels and a B team, red side /C. I think the Brumbies are going to be a proper different proposition for the Blues. Crossing the ditch again, they sometimes go missing in Australia. Brumbies are going to be well up for this game. 7 for me is too high. I love Brumbies +7. They might even sneak it. It's one of my best bets for the weekend.
Well, let's get to the final Super Rugby game of the weekend, Chris, and we'll kick off with you. Your Highlanders up against the Waratahs. Yep. I see I handicapped this game -4.5, and it's -9.5.
Yeah, I agree. So I would have kept it there as well. So I love Tars here +9 as well. One of my favorite bets, but also points. Under that roof, there will be points. I see Pity Parise is not playing, but the Highlanders have found their groove. They are almost one of the top form teams now, the last couple of games. So they're going to come and play. They're playing for the last spot. Tars will always be, I think with the changes, some of that backline that they've changed. We've got Donaldson at 15. I wonder about their defense structure. So I do think Landers are going to find some purchase, but Landers will also give you tries. So, geez, I'm hoping for like a points line of 50 to 53 because I'll be all over the overs there for sure. But +9, another best bet of the weekend there that I like.
Yeah, Conductor also enjoying the Waratahs on the plus there. Interesting to see the points found. I know Chris loves these overs. Alex, what's your thoughts on the final Super Rugby game of the weekend?
Yeah, I am leaning plus, but I do think the cap is not too far off where it probably should be, and that's partly because Waratahs don't have 3 of the key players, in my opinion, which is Bell, HJH, and Parisi. They've all been used. The Waratahs scrum, I don't know what's going on down there, but that scrum has gained them so many meters and gotten out so many holes this season. And with Holtz and Faulkner, I don't think it's going to be quite the same. Highlanders, from a set piece perspective, are generally quite strong. They build a lot of phases off their set piece and really attack off it. And I think that kind of holds some reserve on my side. I would rather go on the overs here and under the roof. If it is around I think probably a similar mark of around 53, 55. I take overs. I think there's going to be tries that I agree with. I did the same last week, and thankfully it came in the 83rd minute. The reserve scrum half, Fakatava, is unreal. I don't know. That guy is a bench spot. For me, he's better than Aaron Smith. It's time for Aaron Smith to step aside. I really thought he might start this week. Fakatava scored 3 tries in 2 games in about 30 minutes. So back in last scorer, I think you can get up 20, 21, 20 to 1. He came in last week. He scored 2 in the last 15 minutes last week. So yeah, really like that as a nice exotic last try scorer.
Excellent. Well, Alex, we're going to stick with you and get into the URC now. Was it quite a few games to get through? This is, of course, the last week of URC action, and the sort of top 4 spots very much up for grabs. We've got a number of teams that can finish in the top 4. I think we've got 3 teams level on 56 points at the moment. But we'll get into a game which doesn't have much bearing on the playoffs, and that's Benetton up against Cardiff. This is taking place Friday night, and we've got a handicap, Alex, of -6.5 Benetton at home, and a points line of 52.5.
Yeah, I think this one's moved a lot. I think actually opened out about Cardiff -2, and so it's a lot of money came in for Bennies. I think their squad looks pretty strong from what I saw earlier on. Cardiff made some changes. I can't remember specifically name-wise, but there's some gaps there in terms of their regulars. It's not as strong as they normally would do. This is as Brent you said, it's a dead rubber game. It's pride, but when it comes down to pride of Bennies at home, they'll be very, very up for this. They don't like losing on their patch at all. And Cardiff sending a weak team, I understand why those lines moved out. It's just a question of whether it's already moved out too far to get on, or whether it's still worth jumping on the minors. And for me, I think it's probably still room for some minors. So I think it's going to be nice conditions down in Italy tomorrow night. I think it's worth a little punt on the Benetton minors. When they're up for it, they're a good side at home, and I think they'll put this Cardiff side away. I have to say, sorry, I watched the Dragons Cardiff game last week, and it was a terrible watch. Cardiff looked really, really poor. I like Bennies here.
And we were expecting, I think Neil as well on last week's show, we were expecting points in that game. So I think it was that game that was a bit disappointing. Brendan Vessels, the conductor, goes Benetton minus. I must say, I'm also looking at this one going 52.5, Chris, points line, man. Is this an overs play?
Yeah, I think this will be an overs game, just considering the spot. I think to play good conditions. They're going to throw the ball around. Cardiff youngsters are going to have a go. So I'm not touching the cap, that's for sure. I don't trust both these teams as the barge ball. So, but I do think these Benetton games and Walsh games, there are more points around these games. I agree. I think also was on the overs as well. I followed there, but I think this last game of the season is going to be a bit of a fun fair going on down there in Italy.
Well, let's stick with you and move on to the first game involving the South African side. It's Ulster up against the Sharks. And this is a critical game. Ulster currently third favourites, I think, for the tournament that are out the 6-7 to 1 mark. And they play the Sharks here. They're -7.5 at home, Chris. And we've got a points line of 43.5. Bookmakers expecting a tight, low-scoring affair here.
Yeah. This is one game I've been looking at all day, and I've battled to wrap my head around it, to be honest, because Sharks have picked a decent side, but Sharks haven't shown me enough confidence that they can go there and cover that cap. And Ulster at home, and with the players they have got back, Cooney back, they've got their boys back. They're at home. I just feel they're more street smart than the Sharks. You know, the Sharks don't feel like they're ready for games like this. I got caught up badly when South African teams travelled last time, and you would expect them to be much better to compete. You know, it's gotten further in competition. The teams are stronger. But I just have Sharks just give me no confidence that they can go there and do the business, even though, okay, maybe I'm more familiar with the Sharks players than the Ulster players, because I still feel this team could win. They should win, but I don't see. I see an Ulster win, and I see a closer game. So I'm not going to take the cap, but if you're going to push me, it'll be +6. I like Ulster 1 to 12 here, because Sharks have to be in the game. It's just also interesting the permutations, right? Because you know, the guys are over there, they win these games and get their home semis, they're flying back, and then they're potentially flying back to Leinster for finals and stuff. I just wonder what the mindset is of the South African teams that have made it. You know, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying they're going to be unprofessional and maybe just say, let's camp in the North for a few weeks, but just interesting to wonder how that's going to work out. So I like the Bulls. We got to get the Bulls the same with the Bulls. It's very difficult for me, but I just think Ulster have proved themselves enough that they will handle the Sharks team, even though this is a powerful shot. Oh, Arm back as well. I didn't really realize he was back, because he's 10. I think he's 10 points to the Sharks. He creates an opportunity. He could be the cap difference. If there was no Arm, Ulster beating the Cap. But when I saw Arm in the team, that's a game changer because I don't know if in the Koch and the other guy who in that Sharks backline, they need someone like an Arm, otherwise they don't fire. So going to be interesting. So that's why I'm staying away from the Cap.
How long has he been out of action for, Chris?
Pardon?
How long has he been out for?
Arm was in Japan.
He's in Japan.
He was ripping it up there. He's on form. He's going to be a difference maker, yeah.
Okay. No, that's what I was just wondering, because sometimes I don't always like when a player returns after a long rest, but if he's been playing in Japan, that's okay. But Alex, let's get your thoughts on this one. Personally, I'll tell you, I'm leaning Ulster on the minus here.
Yeah, I also like it's Ulster here, and I think Chris mentioned it. He mentioned the 1 to 12, and I've come in battling between the minus or the 1 to 12. And I think I'm leaning more towards the minus for this one. I think Ulster at home with a pretty much full strength squad, who are really going to be looking to kick on towards the playoff rounds. It'd be a big statement to put on paper a very good Shark side. Maybe not quite performances, but on paper, full of Springboks away. So I like the minus here. I think if you can find some 6.5 around if you look carefully, which I take a little bit of that. I'll probably take some more of that. So yeah, I'm on the minus here. I think the Ulster men at home on a Friday night, they like that on a Friday night at home under the lights, Kingspan. I think they'll do a job here.
Right, let's stick with you for the next game, because this is one that's interesting, and I just want to bring up a comment before we get on to this game. Let me go into the comments section, it would help. Darren said earlier, what is he missing on the Bulls game? Now, Darren, I do assume you're talking about this game, but certainly I missed something on the Bulls game last week, and I know quite a few of us fancied the Bulls on the minus against the Lions, and I put it up as the best bet in the newsletter. And when the teams came out, the betting changed. Of course, the Lions loaded the URC team. That I was kind of thinking might happen, but what I didn't expect was the Bulls to put out such a weak side. That having said, or such an unknown side. But that being said, the Bulls actually still beat the Lions, but unfortunately my bet didn't come right. And now this is another interesting one, Alex, and I'll start with you on this one. Bulls underdogs away at the Ospreys, and I must say I would have thought that the Bulls would have started favourites for this game. And in fact, I made them 8.5 point favourites when I handicapped this game on the Good for the Game board.
It started that way. It was not quite much of that, but it started, I think you could get Ospreys +2, maybe 3. And the reason for that is that because of the way that the URC is done, and if someone got it wrong, please shout, but I believe that because of the conference system, it's between the Ospreys and the Scarlets who finished top of the pool. And if you finish top of the Welsh conference, you get a spot in the year. And so this is a massive, massive game for the Ospreys, and the same for the Scarlets against the Stormers. It's basically winning your in. But I think Ospreys have to win and have to hope the Stormers beat the Scarlets, I believe. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong. But this is a big game for both the Scarlets against the Stormers and the Ospreys against the Bulls, which is why the money's come for Ospreys, because from a purely mindset perspective, this means probably a lot more to the Ospreys than it does for the Bulls. But I understand why the confusion was, because I completely agree. On paper, middle of the season, this is an 8.5, 9.5 point handicap. But at this end of the season, motivation comes into play.
Well, I mean, thanks for that, because it made no sense to me. I think I was in the same camp. I looked at this and I thought, what on earth? Surely the Bulls absolute good things to win this game. I mean, potentially they still are. But a good explanation there. I didn't think Ospreys, Chris, had anything to play for. It shows you I don't follow the competition as closely. But for me, I thought this was a Bulls team, with potential to jump up the table up against an Ospreys team with nothing to play for. But it turns out the home team have plenty to play for.
Yeah, well, me too, Brent. When I first looked at it, I fell off my chair. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I couldn't have been true, because I also had Bulls favourite at least 4 points. And I thought, no, I'm not. Then these bookies aren't stupid. Something's going on. So I did dig a bit deeper, and I still agree with you. I still feel Bulls are the better rugby side. Bulls should win this. Be winning this game, but that's again because of the South African. I have it in my head now that we don't travel well. We didn't in Super Rugby. we can go there with a strong side. If Ospreys have got their tails up, they're going to give Bulls problems. I do like that Hendricks is playing 13. I didn't like Mapu if he was playing there. That's a bit better for me. But settled in the forwards. I'm staying out of this game because I'm nervous, but I'm going to say I believe the Bulls are going to win the game. But I'm not now. My money is not going on it. But I'm still going to go with my rugby instinct here. And Bulls. It's going to be a tight one, but Bulls will win it. I think Bulls should be favourites.
Yeah, last week taught me not to jump into anything until you know all of the facts. That's for sure. Interesting to hear that. Chris, we'll stick with you for the next game. Dragons v the Lions. Am I right in saying this is a genuine dead rubber?
Yeah.
And we got the Dragons plus 3.5 at home to the Lions.
To be honest, Brent, this is a type of game I won't be getting involved in this weekend. Yeah, Lions should beat them, but I don't. Who knows? I don't. As you guys know, I'm not a big. I don't bet a lot on Dragons, and what have Lions got to play for? I reckon Dragons are going to probably have a good game, but I wouldn't back it.
Yeah, plus 3.5 Dragons. I must say, tend to agree with Chris on this one. Alex, it wasn't one of the games I was too excited for, though. Maybe it's a game where you might expect the points to flow. What are your views on this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought the same last week with the Dragons in Cardiff. The Welsh derbies and throwing up some absolute try-fest recently, but don't know what happened down in Newport, but it was a tight, edgy affair. And I think part of the reason of that at the moment is that, if anyone doesn't know following Welsh rugby at the moment, but there is a lot going on around potentially. Well, there's rumours of one of the regions folding and being moved into another one, and there's a lot of problems. And so they are playing for their lives at the moment. And I think that's why I got cagey last week against Cardiff. Dragons actually had a kick to win it on the hooter and missed it. But they're desperate at the moment to try and prove their worth. So I haven't looked at the price, but I will have a little nibble on Dragons 1-12. I think they'll again fight for their lives at the moment. I'm not going to get involved on the result, like from a cap or money line. Well, yeah, from a cap perspective, but I'm a little punt, a bit of value on Dragons 1-12, and not watch this game. I'm going to. Not going to watch it. Have a little punt on 1-12.
If the Lions aren't up for it, they're going to be atrocious, and I think the Dragons are going to be up for it. And the Lions, I just think the Lions aren't. I think they're really probably having they're on holiday already. Season's over.
Yeah, agreed.
Right, Alex, we'll stick with you for the next game. Connacht up against Zebre, and here we got. I'm just going to look at the betting, but I'm imagining the Irish side are going to be strong favourites, and yes, they are minus 24.5. And in fact, I see that's quite short. So you probably find they're 25, 26.5 now.
So obviously no team used it for this, so it's a difficult one without seeing the sides and the weather in the west of Ireland. I think I'm gonna this game is one I'm gonna stay out of. It's probably capped about right if without looking at teams on paper. I get why it's capped there. Zebre have been a bit better recently, and showed me that maybe they haven't completely given up. But yeah, I'm staying out with it. I'll have a look at the teams tomorrow, but there's nothing here on paper before that's interested me. It's similar to the other game. It's maybe a small bet, but I stay out pretty much.
So, Chris, on this game, I mean, I know that Henrik Swart has been someone who's always gone Zebre unders, but they have been a bit better. And I wonder if this game been a game which the teams might toss it around. Maybe we can even get a small Zebras overs play here. I don't know.
Well, if we get a Zebre 12, 10, 12, I think that's worth it. I think for the last day of the season, they might speak in. And I agree with Alex. If Connacht do announce a strong side, then they got no hope on the cap. So let's wait for teams. I think if Connacht are strong, then I think they're going to go and have a nice send-off at the Galway crowd there and take Zebre. Sorry, I know Zebra's not one of my favorite teams, but yeah, maybe they'll get in for it. If they can get in for a meat pie or two, then that'll be nice for them. But I think if you can get 10, I think there's value there on over Zebre.
Johan Esterhuizen just coming in with his weekly treble, which always comes in at about 6-1. Reds minus, Brumbies plus, and the Chiefs minus for him there at 6-1. Thanks for that, Johan. Chris, we're going to stay with you for the next game, Scarlets against the Stormers. Alex has already pointed out to us that once again, I thought this game wouldn't mean anything to the Scarlets, but there is potentially plenty of meaning here for them. And if we have a look at the betting, very tight game this actually. We've got a sort of a plus 1.5 Scarlets. I'm just looking at Sunbet, going to pop onto player bets and have a quick look now. Plus 3.5 Scarlets with player bets.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is another one I'm looking at, but I haven't got any strong thoughts to pull on the trigger yet. But probably out of the South African teams and this match, is probably I would be most confident the Stormers, just because the Stormers just surprised. I didn't expect them to go on the run that they've been going. Yesterday it's at home. Stormers have gone on many lovely home runs in certain teams, but again, I'm going to say I keep knocking on the travel factor and so on. But I just think what I have seen from the Stormers, there are 10 points better side than the Scarlets. They should be putting Scarlets away. So I'm going to call it now. I'm going to look for better now. I might obviously put stuff on Twitter when I get more confident. But I believe Stormers will cover that cap.
All right, Alex, yourself on this game?
Of the two games, the Welsh, of the Ospreys and the Scarlets games, I feel more comfortable taking a Stormers win than a Blues win, because I think the Ospreys are a much better side than the Scarlets are. The Scarlets have been so up and down, and sometimes great, sometimes horrific this season. And yeah, obviously I've seen the tour party going over, but obviously without team news and the Stormers, they still should put a decent side out. And if it's good weather, I think it's supposed to be good this weekend in the UK. So if it is good weather, this could be points, could be quite a lot of points on a dry track. But I think I like the Stormers. You said it's now 1.5, Brent?
Yeah, it's 3.5 in most places. I saw 1.5 at Sunbet.
No, you have.
It's been 4.5 most of today, so there's obviously money coming from Scarlets, probably because of what I mentioned earlier on in terms of the motivation side of things. But the Stormers play a different brand of rugby, and when they want to throw it around, they are pretty irresistible. And I don't think a even motivated Scarlets team can stop them when they're in the mood. So as long as some of their big guns out wide are playing, I'll get involved on the Stormers here.
Yeah, I also fancy the Stormers to maybe control the scrums a little bit there. I was certainly leaning towards the Stormers. Alex, let's stick with you for the next game. It's Edinburgh up against Glasgow. And here I've just popped onto Sunbet. We've got -3.5 the home team. Yeah,
this is exactly the same situation as the Welsh game. Apart from they're playing each other, this is another win and you're in game. This is a win and you're in the Champions Cup for next season for the Scottish Conference. So massive game up in Edinburgh on the weekend. Edinburgh have been very good this season and they've done pretty well for me a number of times, but also they play. I don't know if everyone remember the game against Zebre. They just about scraped home against Edinburgh. Zebre at home, and I was huge on Edinburgh minus, and they were really poor. It was a cracking game against Wasps. I watched that recently. Absolute ding dong a couple of weeks ago. Edinburgh against Wasps, so they can play when they want to. Glasgow have got a very solid team. I've been really impressed with people like Dempsey, took also at 12. They've got some good players. This is going to be this is a coin flip for me. This could go either way. I'm not even sure about points. I actually think there probably could be some points, but I think the line may be quite low. They'll think this is going to be a tight one. So depending on the points line, I might have a look at overs. If it goes into the kind of 40s, 48, 49, I'll have a little play on the overs, but it's a coin flip either way. And at 2, 3.5, I'm not going to get involved in the cap. I might look at overs at this in the low 40s, but otherwise this is too tight to call for me.
Chris, looks like you're in agreement on this one.
Yeah, total agreement there. Not total coin toss with this one. Probably Edinburgh for me, just if that's as a call, but no betting. And certainly if you get around 50, I think overs is a good play. Edinburgh at home, I think I've mentioned the show a few times. It's been a good strategy for me this season. Kept back in their points at home, so I'll probably look to do the same.
Right, well, let's stick with you for the last URC game. This is a very interesting one. We've got Leinster +5.5 and against Munster, and I can only assume that is because Leinster are top of the table already, and that Munster, of course, are playing for second spot. +5.5 Leinster. You don't often get them at home underdogs. Okay, is there any? And I'm asking the question. Is there anything for Leinster to say that they would rather Munster not be towards the top of the table? Is there any incentive for them maybe coming out to beat Munster, or do you think the bookies have got this right?
No, well, no, but it's Leinster it's known that they're going to make wholesale changes, and Munster obviously going for it, right? So, Munster have, the first of the season, they lost me a lot of money, but they're one of the form teams in club rugby at the moment, and they should ride that momentum. Why not pick a good side, second string Leinster? They should be beating Leinster. The cap's a dodgy one. That's because Leinster are Leinster. I'll probably say that the Munster team should be strong enough to cover that cap. So I'm looking at a Munster money line in doubles or trebles, or definitely love the Munster 1-12, because that's Leinster second string, that they do well. But I just have a feeling Munster will have a big game, so definitely to win it.
Okay, well, there's quite a bit of differing opinion in the live chat. Yes, these games with team selections like this are always tough. One thing I will say about Leinster is they certainly did pretty well in South Africa with their sort of academy side and second string side. So that's something to bear in mind. Having said that, I remember Munster's second team coming out and hammering the Scarlets earlier this season. So, Alex, what are you going to do on this one, if anything?
Yeah, I was just reading Mark's note in terms of some of the Munster players out. Zebre, Zebre, Peter Mahoney, and Burn. So there's some big losses there. But yeah, obviously Munster, I can't remember where they're on the table, but I know they need a win here. And we talked about how much motivation is a big player at this time of the season. Obviously, the Leinster B/C side have done all right recently and messed up some quite big plus caps down in South Africa. They showed that this squad depth is just an absolute joke, really. But with the motivation of being so important this kind of time of the year, I do think that Munster will be wanting to really put to bed what happened 2 weeks ago at the Aviva, losing from an Antoine Dupont kick in the 125th minute, whatever it was. I reckon they'll really be up for this. I think they will absolutely fly into this game. And it's one of these where I take the minus or the 1-12. And I think I'm probably going to edge on a bit about value and lower stake and take the 1-12 for a bit of interest. But I think it's going to be tight. But I think Munster will edge this just from a pure motivation perspective.
Yeah. Right, well, let's move on to the Gallagher Premiership now. We'll talk Gallagher Premiership, then we'll touch on the sevens, because now you've got a bit there before we get into the best bets. And Alex, we'll start with you. Wasps up against Sale, and here I've got the home team Wasps -3.5 and a points line of 54.5.
So maybe it's worth just mentioning from a motivation side again for the Premiership. I think Sale are out of it. So top 8 in the Premiership qualify for Europe. So from a financial perspective and from a club wanting to get into Europe perspective, there's a lot of value to it in that top 8. So I think it's Wasps, Irish. I think Sale have an outside chance, but basically they're out. But this is a big game for Wasps. They really need to win this, which is why they are. I think they started at -2 and it's starting to drift out a little bit. Both sides are good. Both big sides out, a full Sale pack, and the Wasps have got their full crew out. They were good at times against Leon, but fell short in the end last week. And I think they'll be really up for this game. They really need to get a win on the board to give themselves any hope of getting staying in that top 8, which they really have to do. Well, a club like Wasps need to be in Europe next year. So it is a tentative one for me. It's not a big play, but I'm going to have a little go on the Wasps minus here. I think they'll be up for this game tomorrow night. The weather's supposed to be good in Coventry tomorrow night. I'm going to play on the Wasps minus, and then I will have a exotic on this. I'll take Van der Merwe to score the first try at about, I think it's about 15-16 to 1. That Sale pack moves when it gets going, and I think he scored first half tries in the last 2 or 3 games for Sale. So a bit of a value play on first try scorer there. Otherwise, I like Wasps to see this out towards the end of the game and cover the cap.
Excellent. Well, Alex, going for Wasps on the handicap there wasn't as his most confident pick on the show, but I've got a feeling from Alex's explanation there, Chris, that this handicap's going to move out further, and we might see even a start at sort of maybe close to -5.5, -6.5. What are your views?
I think the cap's now pretty. I think it's where it should be. I think it's going to be a cracking game. I mean, I really did like the Wasps. I do think Wasps will win, but it's going to be a tight game, so I'm not so sure on the cap. But just because on for sale when they have Faf and McGinty starting, for me they're a different side. So they're going to come. Wasps are always an open game. So I'm interested to see how Sale will go with that access, because they generally get a lot more go forward ball with those two on the pitch. So they will give Wasps problems. But I have also had some great success on Wasps this season. I just think Wasps at home should do the business, because you also got a case that Sale aren't the best away from home. You could put that into a case here why Wasps should do the business. It'll probably be a nice atmosphere at the Rico. It'll be a cracking game actually.
Well, let's go with you for the next game. It's also a Friday night kickoff, which means you've got a points line, and that's a Bristol up against Exeter. And here we've got a points line of 55.5 and a handicap, Chris, of Bristol plus 5.5.
Yeah, well, with Bristol season's pretty much over, which could maybe be a dangerous thing, right? With nothing to play for. And I have had success with Bristol this season, and Exeter have been one of my bogey teams. They're in the naughty corner. I think they're going to stay in the naughty corner. I don't trust them to go to Bristol and win, to be honest. Even with Bristol with nothing to play for, I think Exeter just haven't shown any confidence for me. I mean, they've lost 10 games this season. You would have ever, in the last 4 or 5 years, you would have never have thought that, right? And I still look at their team, and their backline not what it used to be. And forwards are okay and settled, but they're not playing that Exeter. They're not making use of the Exeter strengths at the moment. I don't know what happened there. I mean, they need to win to keep their slim hopes alive for a semi, but I think Bristol will give them a game. And on that regard, I'm going to stay out of this game. And because Bristol you don't know what you're going to get with Bristol, and I don't trust Exeter, so I'll stay out of it, and it'll be a good game.
Over the years, these two sides have served up entertainment, but I see quite a hard points line there of 55.5. Alex, your views on this one?
Yeah, I'm taking a play on this afternoon, actually. I'm taking Bristol over 23.5. It's, I think, a little bit of rain around earlier on in the day in Bristol, but it's going to be dry by the evening. And I said earlier on the show, it's pretty warm in the UK at the moment. I think with Bristol have always loved. I've struggled against Exeter, but it's a massive fixture for Bristol. I really think they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Exeter. Obviously, as Chris mentioned, Exeter need a result to kind of confirm their top 4 spot. It's a tight one with Gloucester and Saints and Quinn sniffing around, but I think this is going to be some points. I think Bristol could win this game. I think they're one of those sides in the Premiership that, even though there's maybe not much from a motivation side in terms of the table, there's huge motivation to entertain the fans and beat Exeter. So I like Bristol to score some points here. We've got a good side out, good pack. I like the Sheedy's back at 10, Randall's back. I think it's Pierce O'Connor, Alapati, Leo in the centres, Morahan out wide, and Charles Piatow. So absolute weapons, and I think they're going to score some points on hopefully a dry track at Bristol tomorrow night.
Well, I also like that play. I must say the Bristol overs there. Next game, Alex, Bath up against London Irish. Here we got Bath slight favourites at -1.5 points at home.
So obviously Bath are out, they're at the bottom of the table. It's pure pride for them. It's about not finishing bottom of the Premiership for them. And London Irish can obviously still finish top 8. I don't know if anyone watched the Premiership Rugby Cup final on Tuesday night, but Paddy Jackson will still be crying in his pillow after missing 3 kicks to win the game in extra time. He absolutely straight up bottled it. He's a good kicker, Paddy Jackson, on his day. He kicks touchline conversions for London Irish every week. and he'd seen, for his standard, easier kicks than that, and missed them. So this is an Irish team that are coming off from a really disappointing result on Tuesday night with a chance of silverware for the first time in a long time. And then obviously we'd be looking to put that right. I'm going to completely stay out of this from a cap perspective. I think it's probably capped about right. I don't really want to get involved there. Too many other games that I prefer. But I think this will be a big points line. I think this is going to be 56, 57. The Premiership points lines now are insane because there are a lot of points being scored. So probably it's not saying it's probably valid, but it makes it difficult to take it over 57.5. It's just too much. But there will be points in this game. But actually, if it gets up closer to 60, I think I might take an underplay and a small underplay and stay at the result. I think either way, but I'm not going to touch this from a cap result perspective.
I must say, a few years ago when I started watching the Premiership, I never thought I would see points lines in the sort of mid to high 50s, but the game has certainly changed. It's a great league to watch. But yeah, at that sort of level, all you need is 10 quiet minutes and you're very much in the game if you're an unders player. Chris, on this one for you?
Yeah, again, follow a lot of the sentiments. I'm leaning towards Bath. Yes, they were hammered last time against Gloucester, but I can only see a Bath bounce back. They just have to. I think the Irish, that losing that final might take a lot out of them. I know they are playing for a net spot, so they do have a lot to play for, but I think Bath have more to play for after the season they've had and what happened last week. So I think the Rex going to be rocking, and I just think they got a point to prove. They gave Saints a good game the other day. They can do it. they just got to put it together for 80 minutes and they'll win the game. Yeah, but get your raincoats and your umbrellas out because a point storm is coming. So yeah, that's something I have no doubt about. It's even though it's 60 points, I think this game is going like 70, 80 points for sure.
Right, look for plenty of points in that game. Stick with Chris. Harlequins up against Gloucester. Harlequins here, I've got -6.5 at home to Gloucester.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a trap game. Like a great game, top of the log, well, close to top of the log. Quins trying to play for keep their solidify their top four. Gloucester have a chance, so Gloucester come into play. So this for me is a danger game, written all over it. So I'm not getting involved because I think Gloucester can win. It's just going to be too tight, and it's also like generally, if it was open normal season, I would say points. But I've been bitten by this fixture before on points, and if it gets tight, I can see it going under 50. Gloucester can draw you into a slugfest if they want to. So staying out of it.
Right, staying out of that one. Alex, are you going to have anything for us in this one?
I've actually not really thought about this game too much. Sorry, I was looking at my notes here and didn't hear whether Chris mentioned, but this game's at Twickenham. Did you mention that, Chris? Maybe you didn't.
No, I didn't know. I didn't. Yeah, no, there was a Twickenham. No.
Right, this is the Harlequins' summer big game. They did a big game.
Oh, yeah, the big day out. Yeah, I've been to them. Yeah.
So this is at Twickenham. So I actually thought if this was at the Stoop, I think the Quins would have rested players for this game. They did the same last year, the second to last week. And the only reason I wasn't sure is because they actually have been a couple of weeks off here. They haven't played for a few weeks. So, but I do wonder whether they rest and play because it's being played at Twickenham. There's a big kind of commercial element from the club, and they need to put on a show. Gloucester obviously came off a huge win against Bath. Disappointing in the Challenge Cup against a very good Saracens side, but I expected them to do a lot better than they did, and actually quite a poor showing in the end. So they'll be wanting to bounce back from that. So I actually think the cap probably is about right. I wouldn't really get involved there. I think it's probably fine. So again, we'll wait for points lines. I think it's probably going to be up in the mid-50s, and it's potentially going to be a tries overs game. So both these sides need both these sides do score points. Gloucester rolling maul is very, very good and got some cracking backs out wide. But I think if you can get kind of over 7.5 tries, I really like that. Quins recently have been taking kicks at goal, but generally don't. They go for the corners. And Gloucester with the rolling maul will also go for corners. So if you can get kind of over 7.5 try line, maybe that's ambitious, but you can get over 7.5, 8.5 probably too much, but 7.5. I like some tries, and it's partly because it's that big game for Quins at Twickenham. They need to entertain that home crowd.
And at Twickenham, you can almost be guaranteed of a nice surface, and as you say, I think that does change the perspective on it a bit. Yeah. I like that tries overs there. Let's stick with you, Alex. We'll get on to the next game, and we've got just 2 more Premiership games to talk about. Newcastle up against Leicester, and the handicap I've got here is Newcastle at home plus 9.5.
Yeah, this is one I like a lot, and this is a Leicester minus play. So obviously Newcastle had a pretty poor season. They've been okay in patches and pulled together some performances, but generally have had a poor season. Haven't really competed against the side they maybe would have liked to have competed against, and they are also fighting to not finish bottom of the table. So obviously there's motivation there. I think it might be Dean Richards' last home game, so obviously there's motivation there to their last coach. But the Tigers, after I think they'll be the first one to say that Leinster result was disappointing from their side. They didn't put the performance in they would have liked, better in the second half, but fell short. And they'll be massively up for this. I think their last game of the season next week is against Wasps. So I think it's going to be whether they rest players next week, maybe. Equally, I think they'll be wanting to really get some momentum. They've stalled recently. Haven't lost any momentum. They had probably the start to the middle of the season. And going into the playoffs, doesn't matter if you finish first, as Quinn showed last year, you can finish fourth and win this league. So you need to get that momentum right. And so I really think the Tigers are going to want to put points, a big win up at Newcastle. So I think they'll pick their big guns, and I think they'll go for this game. And so I really like the minus. I think it probably should be 13 or 14. I think this is 4 or 5 points short, and I'm happy to jump on at minus 9.5, a single digit minus.
Confident call there, Alex, and let's see what Chris feels on this one.
Yeah, absolutely concurring. This is another one of my best bets for the weekend, Brent. As a lot of what Alex is saying, it just in terms of rugby terms, Leicester are just a phenomenally much better side than Newcastle. To be fair, Newcastle's season's done. And Alex said they're not going to want to leave it to Wasps next week, when Wasps are going to have a lot to play for and are a good side. Then if they want to do that, they need to secure top spot. They're doing it this week. You're going to do it against Newcastle. I mean, I don't see Newcastle coming with the motivation that they need to beat Leicester. I see Leicester running out convincing winners, 20, 30 points.
Excellent. Well, good confident calls by the boys there on the minus. It's going to the last game of the weekend for the Gallagher Premiership. It's the Saracens up against Northampton, and At the Crow Tips can kick us off.
Yeah, it's what's a plus 10, eh?
Oh, sorry, the handicap here. Yeah, minus 9.5. I've got you.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be lower than that, to be honest, because I would say I've had some joy with Northampton this season. I've enjoyed them this season, but I think Saracens at home, you can't look past that. And also just Saracens are probably eyeing this game out, but Northampton adversely have Newcastle at home the week after. And if they beat Newcastle, they should be squeaking into the top 4, if I can see. If Quins beat Gloucester, so if they don't win this game and they go and do the business against Newcastle, they're in. So I don't expect them to unload everything against Saracens. So I like Saracens. And I think Saracens will cover, because I just don't think Saints are targets in this game. But it's not confident because Saints are sneaky. They're better than people think they are. And it's proven where they are now in the log.
Alex, your final thoughts on the Premiership Saracens game?
Yeah, I was just looking at the Premiership table to make sure I'm clear on everything, because again, it doesn't matter. So yeah, Saints are currently 4th, 5 points. So they really need a result here with Gloucester and Exeter and the rest of the pack right behind them. So this is a difficult one, because Sarries are looking for that first spot to get. Well, they've already got a home semi-final basically guaranteed, unless they don't get any points for the next 2 games, which is unlikely. So basically got home semi-final sorted. They've just had a bruising encounter down in south of France and lost, and picked a very strong team for that. So I actually wonder whether Sarries will rotate this week. So I think team news tomorrow is really important, and Northampton are going to pick their best possible squad because they are pushing for that top 4 spot. And I think there could be an upset here. I think catching Sarries after a poor week last week by their standard, where they know they've got some big games coming up, it's the right time for Saints to play them. They've played some really good rugby recently. They play a really good brand, nice and attacking out wide. Alex Mitchell's in really, really good form and has been picked for Jones' squad. He was really wanting to make a statement and really trying to claim that 9 spot, which is up for grabs for England at the moment. So I actually like Saints here, and I like it even more if I see a couple of those Sarries big boys not around come 12 o'clock tomorrow on the team sheet time. So I like Saints here. I think they'll push Sarries here Saturday. So it's whether you go. I even be tempted to take a bigger price of the win. I think they can pinch it, but again, team news is a big factor tomorrow.
Yeah, so wait for that team news before pulling the trigger. I learned that the hard way last week, and so did anybody who backed my news there to pick up the Bulls there. But Alex, let's quickly talk a bit of sevens. I know you've got a few fancies in the sevens, and just while you're thinking of those, I just want to bring up a comment. I think it was Johan Esterhuizen saying he likes Ireland plus 9.5 against South Africa and France minus 18 v Wales. What have you got for us in the opening rounds that you fancy?
So it's in south of France and Toulouse, good weather the whole weekend, so no concern from weather perspective. No rain, no humidity. It'll be great conditions down the south of France. So as an outright play, I think hopefully you can still get it. I took it earlier on. I think it might come in a little bit, but Samoa each way, 22 to 1 outright. They are in the same group as South Africa and Ireland. I think they can beat Ireland and they'll push South Africa. They're a really good side. And I think they could sneak that group. I hope they'll progress from there. Just from an outside perspective, outright perspective, small punt on Samoa each way at a big price. First round's always a difficult one because teams are kind of find their feet in a new stadium. I've taken a couple of plays. One's come in a little bit. Argentina minus 26, and now it's 28. But this should be in the 30s for me. The Argentina against Argentina are a really good squad and should push them. And I also like Canada plus 6.5 against England. The English pains me to say have a terrible sevens squad. Now they used to be great, and now they're horrific. So take Canada on the plus there. And another one I like is Fiji minus 19 against Kenya. Fiji are just too strong and should comfortably cover that cap, maybe even the first half.
Excellent. Well, just before we see if Chris has got any thoughts on that, just to mention to you that on the Good for the Game forum, we're just going to cover the sevens in the same thread as the rest of the rugby. And a bugger boy who's been in top form in the last sevens tournament has posted some picks. I see he's covering the women's sevens there as well. So, yeah, keep an eye on the Good for the Game forum for some picks there and see what the fancies is. Chris, are you getting involved in the sevens at all?
I don't. If I do, I'm following this man above there. If I see him punting something, and I see a couple of New Zealand guys do as well, and I'm happy. When I got some kitty around there, I'm popping on following the boys. Happy to do so. Sevens is the death of me. I can't bet on it.
Yeah, I also follow the boys every now and again, but it's not. I'm an old school punter. I like my 80-minute rugby.
I can't handle holding on for 14 minutes for a stupid knock on or someone to do something silly. I can't handle it. If you see the mismatch and the bookies are wrong, I'm happy for you, but my heart can't take it.
Excellent. Well, gents, that brings us to the end of a show. Quite a marathon. Well done to you guys. We got through everything and plenty of strong fancies there. Well, let's get into the best bets. And Chris, let me start with you.
Yeah, so as I said, loving the Reds I'm hoping that, look at conditions, because I think there was supposed to be rain for the Highlanders game and it never arrived as well. And look what happened. There was points galore. So I love Reds. I do love Reds on the cap or over 30. I think they do still get at least into the mid-30s, even if it's wet. Love Brumbies +7. Love Tars +9. Love Leicester -10. And Chiefs -20. Those are like my 5 top 4. If you want out of those 5, my strongest are Reds, Tars, and Leicester.
Excellent. And thanks to everyone in the live chat as well. Alex, let's finish the show with your best bets.
So in Super Rugby, I agree on the red side. If you can take the Reds, I'm going to go Reds. And I'm going to go on the overs rather than the caps. I think you can get over 31.5. That's my best bet for Super Rugby. URC is a tough one this week. And if there's not a lot I really, really like. But if I had to choose one, I'd go Ulster minus, and we find 6.5. Grab that. But I'm still fine on the 7.5. And the Premiership, Tigers. Yeah, Tigers minus. That should land comfortably, in my opinion. So that's my best bet. I also really like the Bristol over 23.5 tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
Yes, and
then one of the best bet for me, Brent, is later on tonight at midnight UK time over in the MLR. Toronto Arrows +10.5. You can still find it against New England.
Get in on that.
You were saying, Alex, you started following this league now, hey? So you're obviously not
getting it's my guilty pleasure.
Right.
Yeah, I follow it pretty closely now, and there's some big team news that the New England Free Jacks are missing their Kiwi 10 who pulls all the strings for them. Brendan Wacker, he's out, so I like Toronto Arrows +2.5 tonight.
Excellent. I love to hear some more rugby. We're going to have to split this handicap up into a few different shows and start covering the American rugby as well. But thanks to all the boys in the live chat, and of course to my guests at the Crow Tips. Chris, have a great weekend. I hope you have a strong punting one and hammer those bookmakers.
Yeah. Thanks, Brent, and also I hope to the viewers and the punters out there as well. I hope they have a good one as well.
And Alex, to yourself, once again, thanks very much for stepping in at the last minute. Really appreciate it. And great to have your insights and a good weekend's punting to you as well.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, looking forward to a lot of rugby to watch this weekend. So, can't wait to hopefully have a good weekend.
Well, I thought there was a lot of rugby, and then I hear you also play the American game as well. I mean, I don't know how you get any sleep or do any work at all. So, excellent. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. We are getting closer and closer to international rugby as well. Thanks, everyone.
Sure.